Hello, everybody. It is time to recap the most recent UFC Vegas offering, which, of course, is the Joe Pyfer card. This one's a little bit late. Normally, I do these on Sunday, but the microphone stand I use snapped in half, and I'm not gonna, talk about the brand name too much. But I will say, I was very disappointed when I looked inside of it and realized that while the top part where the microphone connects is metal going down, like very stern stuff, very properly heavy, flexible metal. So you can kind of move it around a little bit. But like further down, it just becomes plastic with like a little bit of metal, and it broke right below the metal. And it's like, well, this is terrible construction. Anyways, had to wait for a new mic stand to come. It's here now. The mic is in a slightly different place. Hopefully it's better. I've also moved the room around. So I'm against the opposite wall. So everything might sound a little bit different. I'm feeling it's a little echoey, but we'll find out. There are some things that are going to come in here that'll absorb the echo, hopefully, and it'll improve. But anyways, there you go. What do I have to say about this card? Not a ton. It's an Apex card. The main event was pretty simplistic. Joe Pyfer won the first 2 rounds. Hermansson survived the power, looked relatively untroubled by it, ate it pretty well, and then took over as he worked basically a calf kick and, reasonably good range management game where he would do a little bit of lateral movement, do a little bit of footwork, and at middleweight, that's high grade stuff. And Pyfer didn't really have an answer for it. Now, I am going to say some nice things for Pyfer here. Nothing about this performance leaves me with long-term concerns. What I mean by that is everything is correctable. He, when he lost the front foot, he didn't look horribly panicked or anything. He looked less effective, to be clear. He is still somewhat of a bully fighter. But when he lost the front foot against Hermansson, it didn't fall apart. It didn't unravel. He just got a little bit tired and didn't have the ability to take the initiative back, cut the cage off, and get some things done. And that's fixable. Good coaching can lead to, for example, better footwork. Better strength and conditioning can lead to better cardio. These are all things that can be fixed for a guy who is 27 years old. There's no long-term concerns. But I do hope that this slows the roll a little bit. The UFC wasn't necessarily over-promoting Pyfer, in my opinion, but Dana White kind of was. And there were definitely Joe Pyfer fans who were. He's the hardest hitter ever. He hits harder than Francis Ngannou stuff. There were people talking about him as a future champion. Probably not going to happen. That being said, Dricus du Plessis is our current champion, and we just had Sean Strickland as champion. So it's middleweight. Never say never. But realistically speaking, probably not. But he did go out here and he acquitted himself reasonably well. He didn't get embarrassed. He did, I would say my one critique that probably should be changed is the whole I'm not making excuses. Here are my excuses. That's not unique to Joe Pyfer. Every fighter probably at one point or another has done this. And I'm not even saying that you don't bring up the fact that you had to handle a lot of media for this. You weren't, it was a different experience for you because it is. These are solid reasons, solid excuses for a lackluster performance. Just don't lead in with the no excuses. You're going to make them. That's going to happen. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with talking about why you lost a fight. Nothing wrong at all. In fact, I think it's good. I think that's introspection that is very, very useful. So anyways, what is next for both of these guys? Hermansson I've got against Nasruddin Imavov. That fight just kind of has fallen together with them both winning the main events of the last Apex cards. For Pyfer, I've got Marc-Andre Barrio, who's a guy who I think can bring he's a guy who has some ability to work some footwork and so on. He kind of represents a little bit of what Hermansson brought to the table. Super tough, super durable, good cardio. Will push a pace when it suits him. And kind of just asks those same questions on a lower level. We could see how he handles it. I think that's the way to go. Dan Ige just knocked Andre Fili dead. And there's not much else to talk about there. I mean, that's the beauty of it when you have a how long did this take? I know it was the first like serious committed exchange that Ige had. Yeah, 2 minutes 43 seconds. Anyways, knocked him dead, did his thing. Little surprised he knocked him dead like that. I don't know. I always kind of underestimate Ige's power. But yeah, Dan Ige is a really dangerous fighter. He's a guy that if you cannot put on his back or cannot successfully indicate a full-on range game against, you're probably going to have a really, really rough time. And for his next opponent, I've got Giga Chikadze. And I've got Andre Fili versus Nate Landwehr. There you go. Ihor Potieria versus Robert Brycek. Really good performance by Ihor, actually. Now, I'm going to talk about the weight cut thing. I didn't talk about this being a late notice replacement fight in my preview because I assumed it wasn't. I assumed that as a matchmaker, you would not take a guy who has been fighting at 205 for you, book him at 185 on 6 days' notice, and expect it to, go off without a hitch. Now I understand Ihor was, was planning to fight at 185 for his next fight. Anyways, it's not like they picked a random 205er. But like that just makes his booking just a little bit silly, and I probably would have gone on about that in the preview had I realized that. For the fight itself, Ihor, his range, his reach, his frame at middleweight is going to be a legitimate problem. He's got a little bit of nuance. I knew that. Once he found his range and was comfortable with it, he could, really execute a lot of jabs, a lot of straight like power hands as well. Good footwork, good movement, kept Brycek from, doing what Brycek does. He's a one-trick pony. He's a power hook guy, and that's kind of it. He's very, very good at that power hook game, but when you're 3 inches shorter than your opponent and have a reach difference of, I didn't write down what Brycek's reach was. Do we have, hang on. Do we have Brycek's reach now? Tapology, do you have it now? No, Tapology still has it listed as NA. UFC stats, maybe? Do you have it? 75 inches. Okay. So I have a reach figure for him now. Okay, apparently reach parity, but like 3 inches taller, that's still going to be a problem for obvious reasons. And that insulation was enough for it. I mean, there was early success. There was also a parried punch to Ihor's junk. That was pretty funny. A self-done grunt shot, essentially. But yeah, Ihor looked really, really good. Praised Ali Abdelaziz afterwards. I'm not going to fault it, but your manager is not really doing you any favors, but okay. It was pretty impressive. I mean, I still have fundamental questions about him, even at 185. Doesn't have a lot of power. He's kind of a nuanced striker. What happens if someone can force him to fight in the pocket? What happens if someone can bring a wrestling pressure game to him? Does he really realistically have answers for those at 205 or 185? Probably not. But I guess at the same time, he is going to be very big at middleweight. So obviously the focus for him would be make the weight next time. I've got him booked against Abus Magomedov for the lulz. And Brycek I've got against Puna Soriano. Not much else to say. Brad Tavares versus Gregory Rodrigues. Gregory Rodrigues bullied this man, and the commentary was terrible here. They were kept talking about how Brad Tavares is the type of guy who's going to take you into deep water. He's going to tire you out. He's going to wear you down, and then he's going to knock you out. And I'm looking at Brad Tavares' list of knockouts here. Krzysztof Jotko in 2018. Phil Baroni in 2011. And then we go back to the regional scene in 2009. No. I don't know where some of these narratives come from that the commentary team works with. I just don't. Rodrigues was able to eventually, do his thing. Hyper aggressive, power grappler, power striker. He went out there, did his thing, got the job done. Congratulations for the third round knockout. I was gonna say if Tavares wins this fight, it's a decision because he is very, very hard to out wrestle, and he was very, very hard to out wrestle here. But there was never going to be he was not finishing him. Don't get me wrong, Gregory Rodrigues has terrible, terrible defense and will run into like the hardest shots ever. But Tavares, not a finisher. No idea what was going on there. Anyways, solid performance by Gregory Rodrigues. I am moving Hobocop up and upwards to fight Roman Dolidze, if I have my choice. Because I would love to see someone outclinch Dolidze. And Gregory Rodrigues versus Brad Tavares versus Julian Marquez for the contrast of the very technical stylings of ya boy Tavares versus the wildness of Julian Marquez. Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers. This was weird. This was wrong. And I had a really bad feeling about this fight right from the moment they were emphasizing Darius Flowers talking about bringing karate to this fight, because dude comes out there throwing like side kicks and stuff to the legs and like, it's cool, it's neat, it's whatever, but like, that's not your game. And that's also not the game that tends to break in any way, shape, or form Michael Johnson. You have to go out there, you have to be aggressive, you have to make him repetitively grapple. These are the things you need to actually do. And instead, we got Michael Johnson more or less controlling him on top control, outlanding him, picking him apart at range. Because Darius Flowers just isn't actually a very good striker. Like, Darius Flowers is a chaotic, bully, power guy. And if you don't fight to those strengths, I don't know what you're doing. I would have given. Hang on here. I think they did a clean sweep on these cards. Yeah, they all went 30-27. I will moderately express disbelief at the scoring here, because if we look at the third round, Flowers hurt him pretty badly, pretty substantially with a late knee. Now, he was losing the round up until this point, but Michael Johnson is credited with 8 strikes landed in the round, 3 minutes and 44 seconds of top control on 1 out of 2 takedowns, and getting hurt like fairly badly. It's like not a great round for Flowers. 6 significant strikes, 21 total strikes, but like in this damage base economy, that is a round that Flowers should have won. So they should have been 29-28, is what I'm saying. But like, yeah, Flowers lost, unquestionably. I don't have much to say other than, there was a really weird moment where like Flowers got taken down and it looked like he got shot. People have been posting up like fourth gunman on the grassy knoll stuff. That's funny. I never know what to do with Michael Johnson. Like, the problem is that like he still is like an actually like very good fighter, like very, very good fighter. Like there's no questioning that. But what there is to question is heart. What does beating Michael Johnson mean? What is losing? What is losing and what is winning to Michael Johnson actually mean? So like, you put him in there against like just whoever needs a fight, I guess. I don't have anything. For Flowers, I got the loser Manuel Torres, which I've written down as Menuel. That's a typo. And Chris Duncan, because I think both of those are like fun, crazy, like aggressive strikers that would, be fun against Darius Flowers. Rodolfo Viera versus Armen Petrosyan. Viera just went out there and he made it work. He made quick work of the fact that like it is exactly what I called. Because Petrosyan has a pretty bad wrestling game, honestly. Like, he has a good scrambling game. He likes to try to punish takedowns. But if you have the requisite physicality, skill, and so on, you will take him down. And if you don't do what Gregory Rodrigues did, and just go for actually everything on the planet and lose position, you will crush him. And Rodolfo Viera went out there, did that. Petrosian had some questions about the tap, I think. He tapped twice, I think, instead of 3 times. I don't think he was faking a tap or anything. I think this is a case where, like, man was going out, brain was starved for oxygen, and he probably doesn't really remember all the things that he probably should on the matter. And that's really it. For next opponents, I have got Andre Muniz. Might as well do the mecca of grappling battle between the two of them at some point, and it makes as much sense now as it ever does. And for Petrosian, I've got Shara Bullet. That's not happening because Shara Bullet is going to get something bigger because they want to, they want to push him. He's their new janky striker from the Caucasus that they like to push heavily. But I think Petrosian actually, honestly, would be like a great possibility because he's a guy who's not going to try and take him down, not going to try and wrestle him. He's going to strike with him. He's going to strike at range with him. He's going to let Shara Bullet have the exact fight that Shara Bullet wants. And if he beats him, okay, that maybe Shara Bullet's not really a thing. But like he's a decently accomplished guy, and it would do things. I think it's actually a really good booking. Also, I realized while I was looking for a fight for Petrosian, I got far enough back that I saw that Jamie Pickett is booked for another UFC fight. The man has lost 4 straight fights. Guys, can we stop booking Jamie Pickett? Can we please, can we stop doing that? Can we, I don't know, send a message to Jamie Pickett that, like, this is not the way. That this doesn't work. This is not your calling for life, my friend. Anyways, I got nothing else to say about that one. Trevin Giles versus Carlos Pratis. Carlos Pratis getting the knockout. There were some moments where I was nervous. I scored Giles the first round. I had Giles winning the fight up until he got knocked out. He was utilizing some of the ability to crowd Pratis and deny him kicking range and make him clinch. And someone's going to make him pay very big for that at some point. But then he knocks him out. and awesome. Great. Fun. Pratis versus Kanan Song. Giles versus Trey Waters were my picks. Not super hyped for either of those fights, but I think they are applicable. And I think they allow them to sort of work to their strengths a little bit while, being somewhat of challenges for the guys I'm booking them against. Timothy Kwamba versus Balaji Oki. Oki looked good. He's fast. He's athletic. He's got some good counters. He's got some good timing and so on. I think there's a lot of work to be done, but like the base physical tools and style are absolutely there. I don't want to say he lives up to the hype necessarily because, he was fighting a guy who was also debuting. So, like, I don't know. But, like, he was a sizable favorite here for a fight that was very, very late booking. And he did good. I scored rounds 1 and 3 for him, round 2 for Kwamba. I assume that was what we got kind of across the board here. Kwamba versus Oki. Oh, this one was a split. What did Chris Lee have here? Chris Lee scored the fight for Kwamba, rounds 2 and 3. I didn't even realize this. I thought this was very, very clear cut. Let's see here. Let's consult the strike count. Yeah, I don't see it. So for the record, if you want to put up UFC stats or whatever, Oki outlanded him 30-9 in the first round. That was scored to him across the board. That's fine. Second round went 13-10 for Kwamba. He also scored a takedown, back to about 2 minutes top control versus 1 minute 90. And in the third round, he got outlanded 21-13. There were no takedowns and only 20 seconds of credited control time. So no, I don't. As is often the case, I don't understand Chris Lee. That's kind of always been the problem with Chris Lee. I did agree with his main event scorecard. Let's see here. I disagree with the Flowers versus Johnson one. We talked about that. I disagree with this one. He also did Prachnio versus Clark. We'll talk about that one. I don't remember what I scored that one. I did have Prachnio winning, to be clear. So I agree with the winner. For Oki, I've got Evan Elder. Now with Oki, there's a question of like how much of it is just like physical talent. Elder is a decently solid athlete, decently large guy, and a guy who has a little bit more problem solving. Like he kind of is a more aggressive form of Timothy Kwamba and also a bigger form. So like it makes a lot of sense to go there. And then for Kwamba, I think honestly he just gets a Dana White Contender Series grad because he came in on late notice, give him his chance to shine against somebody near the bottom, and also in his own weight class because like dude's a featherweight. He's probably going to fight a featherweight next time. I have nothing to say about Loma Lukebumi versus Bruna Brazil. Loma is the better fighter. She showed it, but she's tiny, and as a result, it wasn't the most thrilling of fights. I'm actually curious because Dom Cruz was really ragging on this fight for low output. And I don't, to be clear, I don't necessarily disagree, but like for comparison purposes, Lukebumi had 2 less strikes than Blachioki, and Brazil was 5 less than Kwamba. So like pretty similar numbers to, let's have a look at the other decisions here. Yeah, pretty similar numbers to Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers. Pretty similar numbers to Potieria versus Brycek. So no, I would argue the actual output is not necessarily the problem. Realistically speaking. Anyways, I don't have much else to say. And like, and the problem with like booking Lukebumi is the girl is probably going to get booked against someone she's better than and who is just bigger and therefore can kind of put a wet blanket over like things because there are things that Lukebumi just has to avoid because if she ends up on bottom, it's terrible. Like, bring in the atomweight division. Why? I've on many occasions listed like the number of atom weights that the UFC essentially has. Loma Lukebumi, Tabitha Ricci. I'm blanking on some other ones, but there are. Hang on. Let me pull up for a hot, quick second here the Tapology strawweight rankings, and I'll point out the ones that are realistically atom weights. All right, here we go. Carlos Barza, realistically probably an atom weight, maybe a little bit too old now. Tabitha Ricci, Tisha Torres when she comes back, probably an atom weight. Loma Lukebumi, Karate Hottie, Michelle Watterson Gomez, Jessica Penne, who is still ranked at number 20, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure she's retired, but whatever. Kaneko Murata, probably Corey McKenna. I've never really thought of it, but probably Corey McKenna, honestly, given how like given her like 58-inch reach and 5'3" height. I've never really thought of it, but like probably honestly a 105er. Moving further down, you got Mizuki Inoue, you've got Vanessa Demopoulos, you've got Caneo Ruiz, Montserrat Caneo, to use the name that they usually market her under. She's in 1, but like you could bring in some girls from 1, like Sohee Ham. That would be fantastic. I'm just saying. There's a lot of talent. Emily Ducote, honestly, probably could do atomweight. Probably. Realistically, Jinyu Fry has. Now, I will say this. I am still to this day stunned that Jinyu Fry could do 105, but she did it. She did it. And I have no idea why we're booking her at strawweight. I have no idea why she's on the roster at 11 and 10 anyways, but hey, there you go. For Brazil, I've got Elise Reed. Devin Clark versus Marcin Prachnio was pretty bad. I scored the 3rd round for Clark, the first 2 for Prachnio. I guess just out of curiosity, what were we looking at for the UFC stats on the matter? Probably all 3 rounds, yeah. I've scrubbed this fight from my memory, honestly. I'm not really sure why I put Clark winning the 3rd round. I think, honestly, it was the fact that Prachnio towards the end of the round was like stumbling around pretty badly from being like exhausted and just tired from beating Clark up for 2 rounds. That was probably it. Just like kind of an illusion thing that gave Clark an air of efficiency and impact that probably honestly wasn't there. There you go. I don't know what to do with these guys. You put them up against Dana White Contender Series prospects, I guess, because like they're not very good, is what it comes down to. And they're kind of too old to like reinvent themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, Pacino is actually like doing pretty okay now at 35 years old, where he's like looking a little more high output, a little bit more exciting, a little bit more. But like when my most memorized part of this fight was just the whole point karate and how he's not a point karate fighter thing kind of comes into play. It's pretty bad, and probably wasn't helped by the fact that the 175-pound fight before this, Jeremiah Wells versus Max Griffin, was also pretty terrible. For argument's sake, I did give it to Griffin, but Max Griffin, I'm going to defend Sal D'Amato here for a half second. Sal D'Amato got kind of dragged through the mud in the post fight by Max Griffin, apparently at the presser, talking about how he's like always scored against him. Someone diligently went and did the work on Twitter, and Sal D'Amato's judged 4 Max Griffin fights. He scored 2 of them for him and 2 of them against him. And like I would challenge any judge to have a better ratio on that, to be honest, because like I feel like Max Griffin's wins are like almost all exceedingly close. Like there are very few clear-cut decisions in Max Griffin's like career. Like looking back at this split decision with Team Means, by no means a given. He did beat Carlos Condit pretty clean. He beat Salim Amadia by majority decision. Again, very close fight. So was the Oliveira fight. So was the Moreno fight. So was the Alves fight. So was the Melender fight. He cleanly beat Mike Perry. I'll give him that. He pretty clearly lost to Zaleski. Yeah, like there is not much in the way of like very clean victories in his career. There just is not. And I think you I don't know, you don't want that to be the case. Win bigger. There you go. That's all I got. It's all I got. Anyways, next opponents for Max Griffin, I've got Carlston Harris, and for Wells, I have Mitapik Orobai. I think I got the last name right. I'm not sure about the first name. Both of these would be about testing the other fighter, to be honest. Like Harris is another, like, fairly tall, fairly rangy guy, very violent, very dynamic offense. See what happens. It's just a fun fight. And then for Orobai, my big concern with Orobai, he doesn't seem very big. He's very power dependent. So putting him in there with like someone like Wells, who is very power dependent and very powerful, might give us something. Might really be informative. Vadim Gushkov knocked out Zach Pauga in the first round. Don't have much to say about the fight, to be honest. I think I'm kind of done with the Pauga experiment. Former NFL player. I'm like, hey, this is gonna be cool. This is gonna be fun. He's gonna come in here and he's gonna be like athletic and like learn some things and whatever. He's with a really, really good camp at Elevation Fight Team, but not really. He's pretty repetitive. Well, that's really it. Really, it's just like the look he gives you is pretty much the same constantly. And eventually, Gushkov, who's got a terrible style, by the way, he is the guy who watched Floyd Mayweather tapes and is trying to make that into a fight style. Eventually just bombed on him. I've got him against Rodolfo Bellato next. I've got Pauga versus, I don't care. Not cut, mind you. It's just that like I've given up on the idea of him being something. Like he's kind of in the Devin Clark, Marcin Prachnio mold of, I don't think you're going to go anywhere. But you're good enough, you're athletic enough that you can test somebody coming in. This is 205. It's not a deep division. Hyder Emil gave Fernie Garcia the beatdown. There were a couple of moments where Garcia had some control. He had a back take at one point, but no, he was bullied around, beat up, and eventually stopped. It was a great debut for Hyder Emil. I will say the one problem he has is this is a super late notice replacement, so I don't know where, I don't know what to make of that going forward. It's one of those things. Fernie Garcia has been bullied and beaten in all of his UFC fights, so I'm not sure what that really means. But I've got him against William Gomez, who's kind of in the same boat, like a guy with obvious physical talent and like some decent ideas, but like hasn't beaten anybody that really tells me a damn. So make that happen. Garcia probably just gets cut. This is 0-4, I do believe. I don't see him sticking around. And then we had the weird fight with Daniel Marcos and Orichi Lang, which was Daniel Marcos having a really good first round, pretty clean, you know. A lot of the basics, which he kept getting away from in the Davey Grant fight, so it was good to see this here. He still had some spins and so on, you know, whatever. But like Marcos was like doing really, really well with like calf kick into like a 2-strike combo or whatever and just get out, like neutralize. Like bam, 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 resets between the bams. Bam, reset, bam, reset. When he was doing that, he was like absolutely lighting Reach Lang up. When he got a little bit deeper and like kind of, for lack of a better term, brawled with Orichi Lang was able to get some things in, but not like a ton. And then in the second round, it got weird because we had eye pokes, we had groin shots, we had, at the end of the day, a no contest or a no decision. I forget which. Yeah, no contest. No contest is the official term. Yeah, I don't have much to add. I mean, I assume they'll get a rebooking. I don't think it's needed. I think Marcos comprehensively showed exactly where, you know, this would go. The fight was canceled after Orichi Lang, you know, jumped into a shot to his groin, which is a bit much. Yeah, but that was about it. So yeah, those were the fights. It wasn't very good. It wasn't terrible. Like I guess what I should say is that like the things that I was excited for, the things I was hoping to be informative or have a purpose, did. We learned about Joe Pyfer. We got a cool Dan Ige knockout. We got a surprisingly decent performance from Ihor Potieria. Gregory Rodrigues was entertaining. Rodolfo Viera was entertaining. Carlos Bratis was entertaining. Blagioki got tested a little bit and came out fine. But like, I think the thing is that the beginning of the card, not the very beginning, because like Marcos Orichi Lang, that was fun. Hyder Emil versus Fernie Garcia, that was fun. It's a bit sad. And then like Gushkov got a cool knockout. But then you had the 4 decision fights in a row, none of which were amazing. Like Griffin Wells, bad, like actively bad. Prachnio Clark, not very good. Loma Luke Bumi, Bruno Brazil, not very good. Oki versus Kawamba, interesting, but like not fantastic. And then we got into some good stuff. And then you have the weirdness of Johnson versus Flowers and like just a lack of like really impactful ones. By the way, there was a standing TKO in that second fight between Hyder Emil and Fernie Garcia, which Dominic Cruz was fine with. Dominic Cruz, the man who has criticized every referee that has stopped one of his fights, was okay with that one. I guess that you could take it one way or another. Either he's massively hypocritical or that was just that much of a beating. What do we got coming up this weekend? I know we got UFC 298, but I see we have a 1 card. Haggerty versus Lobo. Okay. Jonathan Haggerty's fighting. I like Jonathan Haggerty. I don't break down Muay Thai fights though. Looking to see if I recognize any of the names in the MMA fights, and well, there's only 2 MMA fights, so there's your answer. So I won't be talking about that in terms of predictions, but give it a look. I don't know if this one's over on the Prime or not. Oh, it is on Prime. There you go. So easy to watch. KSW 91 coming up. Dominic Humberger. I don't really know him. He's 7-1, 185. Or hang on, let's read up on this man just because of his name. Looks jacked. 28 years old. Lost his KSW. He's fought in KSW 3 times. He's gone. Okay, he beat Boris Borkowski, who's not bad. Beat George Bueno and lost to Mikhail Mahalski, who's not bad. Anyways, I don't know. Big looking guy, funny name. I'm not really seeing anything here can't miss, but like if you have not experienced a PFL card, you kind of owe it to yourself. Check that out. It's a fun time. And then of course we have the Volkanovski versus Topuria card, which by pay-per-view standards is not amazing. Like the main card is pretty good. Like I'm looking forward to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Kopylov, Cejudo versus Dvalishvili, Neal versus Gary is kind of eh. I feel like I've seen this test for like Jeff Neal a couple of times, and I feel like I'm not going to learn a lot about Ian Gary. Spoiler: picking Ian Gary. Whitaker versus Paulo Costa in the co-main, and then the title fight at the top, and then Lemos versus Dern as the feature prelim, which is good, but it's kind of like everything after that is not amazing. You got Justin Tafa versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Not interested. Rinya Nakamura versus Carlos Viera. I am very, very interested in Rinya Nakamura. He's a fantastic prospect, but like Viera, not very good by UFC standards. Mingying Zhang versus Bredson Ribeiro is... we'll leave it at that. I've kind of been sucked out of the Josh Quinlan hype train. He's fighting Danny Barlow. I've heard good things about O'Bowen Elliott. Maybe he's going to be really, really good. He's fighting Val Woodburn and Andrea Lee versus Miranda Maverick. Actually, a oddly good like opener. I am looking at this. And I'm seeing like I think this card just got kind of killed by like cancellations. Like it was supposed to have Anthony Hernandez versus Ikram Aliskerov on it. Hernandez versus Kopylov, still a good fight, but like not as good. Tai Tuivasa versus Marcin Tybura got moved, which by heavyweight standards would have been an impactful fight. We lost Tatiana Suarez from the card. She was going to fight Amanda Lemos. Now it's Mackenzie Dern, which is probably a more interesting fight, but a less impactful one, just because Suarez is kind of like, had Suarez been on this card, she could possibly be fighting for a title, which is exciting. Nakamura was supposed to fight Brady Heastan. That would have been more interesting than Carlos Vera, but not by much. And then AJ Dodson versus Tresean Gore was supposed to be on the card. We lost that. Which is not a great fight. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. Check out the description below for my link tree, which has my social medias on it, where you can find my Twitch gaming stuff, where you can find my Discord server, where you can nerd out with some fellow MMA fans. Notably less toxic than the social media environment around MMA. There you go. That's your reason. Go there. Talk to cool people and enjoy the fight simulator that I provide. By the way, I gotta announce the Bloody Mania card for this month, so that'll be fun. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you on Thursday. Let's go.